Exclusively on ESPN Plus, UFC 313, Saturday. Reigning light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira defends his title against #1 contender Magomed Ankalaev, and an explosive lightweight bout between Justin Gaethje and Rafael Fiziev. UFC 313, Saturday at 10 p.m. Eastern. Buy it on ESPNplus.com/PPV.
It's winter, and you can now get almost anything you need for the coldest months of the year delivered with Uber Eats. What do we mean by almost? Well, you can't get a ski slope delivered, but you can get dish soap delivered. Sunshine, that's a no. But a bottle of wine, that's a yes. A snow angel, sorry, no. But angel hair pasta, Uber Eats can definitely get you that. Get almost anything delivered with Uber Eats. Order now. Alcohol and select markets. Product availability may vary by region. See app for details.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
At T-Mobile, our critical mission is providing unparalleled 5G coverage for when connectivity is mission critical. Introducing T-Priority, America's best 5G network experience for first responders, even in times of congestion. More capacity, faster speeds, better coverage. T-Priority from T-Mobile. Built for tomorrow's emergencies. Ready today. Discover more at t-priority.com.
For qualifying organizations on eligible rate plans, coverage not available in some areas and may be impacted by emergencies.
Ever met a foundation that does it all? Say hi to NARS Light Reflecting Foundation. Makeup meets skincare in a bottle. It evens skin tone, blurs imperfections, and has a natural radiant finish. Plus, it's formulated with skincare ingredients to help strengthen your skin's barrier. With a newly expanded shade range of over 40 radiant shades to choose from and buildable all-day wear. NARS Light Reflecting Foundation. Find your perfect match.
Hey everybody, it's Weird Islanders, the podcast, back once again. My name is Dan. That is Mike. How are you this evening, Mike?
I am pretty good. Little bit of excitement here at my house just before this podcast recording, trying to save a possum's life as Elvis was chasing it around. And I don't know if you remember, but a couple years ago while we were recording a podcast, he was doing something similar, and Emily was out in the backyard while me and you were probably talking about, Justin Papineau or some bullshit, and she's out in the backyard in the dark, like chasing him around as he killed another possum. Yeah, you remember that, right? And so it seems he seems to target these times, but this possum did get away, much to Elvis's chagrin. But now we get to talk about a weird Islander, and my mind is, of course, all over the place, but that's a good place for it to be when we're doing Weird Islanders, the podcast.
Yes, definitely. And especially about a player like this, who was known, at least in one instance, for being all over the place, and it looked like he was maybe trying to catch a possum himself in a game. We're going to talk all about that in due time, and the rest of his career as well. And to do that, we're going to bring on one of my favorite guests. He's a good friend of mine. He is, you know him from Lighthouse Hockey, one of the most knowledgeable comic book people I know, and a writer himself. And he's my friend Keith Dallas. Keith, how are you tonight?
Gentlemen, how are you guys doing?
Very well, very well. It's always great to have you on. The last time we had you on, we talked about another defenseman. Oh, we're going to get to who it is in a minute, but we talked about defenseman Matt Donovan.
Right.
And I'm sure you know by now that Matt Donovan was hired this summer as an assistant coach for Milwaukee of the AHL, the Predators.
Yeah, good for him.
Yeah. And so when you saw that news, did you think, wow, Barry Trotz must have listened to that episode of Weird Islanders podcast?
Right. I'm assuming Matt's thank you card is, he lost in the mail somehow, but I don't think I'm going to get a thank you card from the player that we're going to be talking about tonight. I have a feeling I'm going to be getting blocked from the player that we're.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely. Because I don't think any of us is going to have a whole lot of nice things to say about this player. But we're going to have a good time anyway, because what a weird career this guy had. And again, he is another defenseman. And this is another chance to dive into, again, your closet of strange Islanders jerseys. And we're going to get to that at the end. But Keith Dallas, will you please reveal the subject of tonight's episode of Weird Islanders, the podcast?
We are discussing a left-handed defenseman born in Quincy, Massachusetts, whose number was retired by his alma mater, Boston College. His number was not retired by the New York Islanders or any other NHL organization. We are, of course, talking about Mike Mottau.
Mike Mottau. I'm sure if you're a longtime Lighthouse hockey reader, you're picturing a man doing a snow angel on the ice during an NHL game. We're going to get to that, I promise you. But yeah, what a career Mike Mottau had. I don't think, definitely no NHL teams are retiring this man's number anytime soon. Numbers, I should say, anytime soon. But before we get into all that, reminder that we are on Patreon, patreon.com/Islanders Anxiety. Membership gets you ad-free episodes, bonus podcasts, written posts, and a whole lot more. Or you can sign up for free to get our weekly release calendar and to see announcements. So get on over to patreon.com/Islanders Anxiety and sign up any way you can today. Okay, Keith, we're going to get to the jersey in a minute, so I don't need to ask you why you picked Mike Mottau.
That's the only reason I'm on tonight. You guys can go ahead and admit that. I'm not going to be hurt.
You are part of a very small club of people that have, Mike Mottau actual jerseys in your home right now.
Dan, I think, is it safe to assume that I'm the only one whose last name is not Mottau to have a Mike Mottau jersey? Is that fair?
I think that's probably fair.
That's a fair assumption.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
I will say, I think I've seen one in the wild, and I wonder if it was you at UBS or Coliseum.
No, I definitely would not have worn it at UBS.
Yeah, I was gonna say it was because it was I believe it was the black jersey.
Oh
wow.
Cameron Wong black jersey.
The gray.
Orange and gray. Yeah. He wore that one.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I didn't have. I mean, it could have been Mike Mottau for all I know. But yeah, it was. I've seen it. I've definitely seen one before. Because the team his first year that he played with the Islanders. Anytime I see outside of like the core guys of that group, like the Molsons and Grabner, Nielsen, the guy that was drafted before Victor Hedman, those kind of jerseys, like they're you'll see a couple of those guys, those jerseys walk around, and you're like, wow, like man, walking around with that jersey that's something, because that team, we've seen some poor Islander teams in our time, right. And this one was going nowhere fast.
And yet somehow I became an Islander season ticket holder during these early Jack Capuano years.
Buying low.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah, you got
guys, you don't even know. It was 2 tickets for the entire season. Cost total. Geez, that first year, and again, that first year was my first year as a full season ticket holder, was the 2011-2012 season, and I think I was charged like $2,200.
Wow!
I think it came out to something. I mean, somebody do the math, but it's like $25 a ticket, something like that.
Oh my goodness!
And it was a good seat. It was a good seat, Dan. I mean, you sat where it's it's a great view.
Yeah.
And section 301.
Mm-hmm.
And I missed those.
Right.
And add a zero, and that's what UBS wants to.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, you're not getting that price now, that's for sure. But yeah, sometimes when the team's bad, it can have these sort of unintended consequences of cheaper tickets, easier to get in. The only problem is you're going to watch a lot of losses. I mean, that's just kind of how it is, and that was definitely the case with this era here. We're talking about,
and your building gets invaded by fans from other
Yes.
That's the other drawback. Not just Ranger fans, but
No.
Flyer fans and Devil fans.
Canadians, yeah. Canadian fans, sure.
Maple Leafs fans.
It's awful. It's awful.
That's
But beyond the jersey, which again we're going to save to the very end, as we usually do on this show. When you think of the name Mike Mottau, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Is it this era of Jack Capuano? The losses. This is the early rebuild era when wins were not coming that easily. They would eventually make the playoffs a couple of years later, but Mottau was long gone by then. So, what's the first thing that you think of when you think of the name Mike Mottau?
It's a tough question to answer because he clearly. We went through the stuff that he quote unquote distinguished himself for as an Islander,
right? And
it's all bad stuff. So I'll say, personally, because I did, call me delusional, but for some reason I had some high hopes for that 2011-2012 squad. I think maybe it's because the previous year they had such a strong finish. Now, why did they have such a strong finish? As Arthur Staple would always tell us, it's because they won so many games when they were already eliminated, so they had no pressure. So, and just the disappointment of that season as it really, I think they started out like 3-1 or 4-1. And that's probably when we hope that the season would have been canceled by that point. But yeah, we're talking about a guy who over the course of 2 seasons had 5 points for the Islanders.
Right.
So the Snow Angel is definitely way up there in terms of lowlights. I guess his highlight is what he actually.
There's a highlight, I will say.
Yeah.
Okay. The thing that pops out to me.
I think it's the same one that. I think you're thinking of the same one that I'm thinking of. But.
When he fought Sean Avery.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like the thing that I think is the only thing, because he had beef with Avery when he was with the Devils too. I remember, and so I appreciated that because those were pretty lean years, 2010 and 11 and 11-12, just like across the board. But one of the worst parts about it was that at that time, like the Rangers those were the John Tortorella Rangers, and they were making the playoffs all the time, and they'd kind of come in, and even if the Islanders won, the Coliseum would be full of Ranger fans, and Ranger fans would be like, congrats on winning your Stanley Cup, like by beating us, like we're going to the playoffs and all that stuff. And Lundqvist was in his prime at the time. They had just an annoying group of players that everybody seemed to like off the island. Somehow, like the Rangers' identity has like shifted a million times in our lifetime. Like back then, it was like these are the lunch pail blue collar Rangers, and now it's like these power play guys, but they always have the goalie, of course, and like that team with like Dubinsky, Callahan, and Stepan as a rookie, Brian Boyle, Girardi, who scored probably 15 goals in his entire NHL career, and all of them came against the Islanders. Brandon Prust, and then Avery, of course, was kind of just the one that was the most annoying, and it was never not fun to see him at least get pummeled a little bit. So that I did appreciate that, but like you said, like everything else was a disappointment. It's hard for a player like Mike Mottau to say this guy completely underwhelmed, because like what are your expectations of this kind of player coming in? He was in his 30s when the Islanders signed him. He was supposed to form that or be part of this like veteran blue line that was going to I don't even know what the purpose was like the Island. This was also something we forget about too with the Islanders back then, was they needed to get to the salary cap floor all the time. Like it wasn't it was a big deal. They were like, okay, the Islanders open up training camp in 3 weeks, and they're still $3 million short of the salary cap floor, and they'd bring guys in and stuff to like get there. But when you look at the blue line, it was the forwards were really young. They had a couple young defensemen in McDonald and Hamonic coming up, but then the rest of it was just veteran
cast-offs.
Cast-offs. Right. It was Urchina, who was a lot of fun, and I really appreciated his Islander career. Of course, Martinek was still there. Mark Eaton and Mike Mottau.
Right.
So
I think
like
who he was paired with, right? I think that was the pair was Mottau and Eaton.
those two guys. Can you imagine the conversation they must have had after games, being like, "What? How on earth? What did we do to deserve being here?" Oh God.
Yeah, I know. Mark
And they had
Eaton
Dwayne Rollerson as the goalie still, so it was just
I
was
know.
this
Who
team of like
Mark-
veterans.
Who was Mark Straight paired up with? I'm trying to remember during this year.
Well, I think this is a year that Mark Streit got hurt right before.
Yes.
Like
This is
the
the year
season,
Streit missed. Yeah.
yeah, the 2010-11.
Yes.
And Oposo missed half the season. They both got hurt in training camp.
Right.
Oposo came back like in late January, and Streit was out all season long. So they were cooked.
And it's actually kismet that we're recording this, because I saw a video today posted on Twitter, like of people being like, Dion Phaneuf like didn't care if it was preseason, and it was when he hurt Oposo was the video they clipped.
Yeah.
And on that clip, I completely forgot that this had happened, but an Islander also ran named Pascal Morency, who played for the Sound Tigers and never made it to the NHL. He left the bench to fight Phaneuf. It was amazing to watch.
He was a menace, that guy. Yeah.
It was awesome. Yeah. I know. We got to track him down because he might be the only weird Islander to get an episode where he never actually played a game for the New York Islanders. Because I just want to talk about that game and that decision. Because, but so like I guess maybe that's part of the reason why like the blue line looked the way it did was Streit got hurt and Oposo did, and we talk a lot during preseason about how I hate preseason games because it's just it's all downside to me. There's really very little upside to it. And this is what ruined it for me. Watching Oposo get hurt and then Streit getting hurt during camp as well. And I think Streit got hurt by Molson, right?
Yes. He got trying to hit into the boards just during a scrimmage or something, and he was done for the season. And I will never forget that.
Terrible. Yeah, just completely took the wind out of your because like there wasn't that much optimism about the team, but they did have this new, player that they drafted before Victor Hedman, and maybe there was still at this point there was like, okay, maybe Bailey takes a step forward, Oposo takes a step forward. Right. They brought in, this was the year they brought in Parenteau and Molson, and they clicked. Grabner came in this year too, like so there was some bright spots, but it felt like it was just the season was over before it started, and part of the reason that it never got started was the defense had Mike Mottau and Mark Eaton on it playing like 20 minutes a game.
Right. This was also the infamous arena referendum season, which again we'll talk about again in a little bit in reference to Mike Mottau, which is actually kind of funny. But yeah, like you said, Mottau by this point was 30-something years old. He was coming in to a very young team, at least forwards wise, was very, very young. A 20-year-old first line center. I mean, Molson and Parenteau were both 27, but I mean, they had barely played. Grabner was 23. Blake Como was still on this team at just 24. Josh Bailey was just 21. So they needed some veteran presence, and they reached out to guys like Mike Mottau and Mark Eaton. And it didn't really work, but they tried. But before Mottau came to the Islanders, he had a really decorated career in college, not in the NHL. We'll get to the NHL teams in a minute, but he won the Hobey Baker Trophy in 2000 playing for the Boston College Eagles. He had 43 points in 42 games that year. He led the Eagles to the NCAA championship game where they lost to North Dakota. And I found out today because years later, BC retired his jersey number. And he's like one of the more decorated people they've ever had there.
Mike, Boston College is honored to retire your jersey today. Fans, we ask that you please direct your attention to the Conti Forum rafters as we officially unveil Mike Mottau's jersey, which will hang alongside other Eagle greats forever.
He is not only second all-time on the team in assists, which is kind of crazy, but he is BC's all-time leading scorer amongst defensemen, which is kind of crazy when you think about, Mike Mottau, the NHL guy, versus Mike Mottau, the college
Mottau.
Yeah, right? Like, what?
Right.
So, Keith, did you remember this Hobey Baker? I did not. I mean, when I think of Hobey Baker guys, the first name that comes to my mind is Jason Krog. I'm not even kidding. Mike Mottau is not the first name that comes up. Do you remember that he was a Hobey Baker winner?
No, not at all. I mean, I think prior to his, coming to the Islanders, I remember. I even forgot he got drafted by the Rangers.
Yeah,
I sort of really remembered him as a Devil.
Yes, me too.
And I totally forgot how, it took him a while to really get, basically be an every game starter at the NHL level. Looking at his AHL stats even are rather impressive.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I think of Mike Mottau, I think of he's really a devil,
Yeah, no, I thought of that too. That I still think of him as a devil after watching him play for the Islanders for 2 years. But you're right. No, he was drafted by the Rangers in the 7th round. I love finding guys that got drafted in rounds that don't exist anymore. Drafted in 1997. Played for the Rangers for really only a handful of games 1 year, 18 games 1 year, 1 game the next year. And then he was traded to Calgary for a 6th round pick, basically recouping their investment in this man. Which they used on a guy named Ivan Dornich, which I've never heard of before, and future considerations that I'm sure the Rangers never actually, signed on. He ended up signing. He only played a few games with Calgary. Ended up signing with Anaheim, and it's funny because if you look on his NHL stats, you will not see the Anaheim Ducks, and that's because he mostly played in Cincinnati. They had their AHL team in Cincinnati, and like you mentioned, his AHL stats are actually really good too. This man played everywhere. As far as the AHL, Hartford, St. John, Newfoundland, Cincinnati, Worcester, Peoria, Lowell, San Antonio, and eventually Toronto for the Marlies, which he would sign for later. And it's just funny to me that like you look at you're like, wait, sign with Anaheim. He didn't play with Anaheim. Well, it's because he played with the Cincinnati Cyclones, I think is what they call the time. But he signs with the Devils in 2006. And like you said, this is where he becomes like a regular player. And to this day, I still think of this man as a New Jersey Devil. And in fact, he would go on to play 235 games with the Devils, 7 goals, 43 assists, 50 points. Don't sound like a lot, but let me tell you, when you're Mike Mottau, that's the best you're gonna do. Because
I can't even envision him scoring a goal.
I know,
really,
let alone 7.
Yes,
Well, of course, the 3 seasons
because of how we saw him play for the Islanders.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, how did that happen? Because the last time I was on, we talked about Matt Donovan's goals, which again were all of 2.
Yeah,
but I remembered them. I'm like, I remember that goal, but I'm just like, preparing for this episode, I was thinking like, there's no way Mike Mottau scored a goal for the Islanders, and I love the Mike. I was right, and he barely got any assists for the Islanders.
Yeah, no. It's really funny. Yeah, no, it's insane. Mike. I mean, is it 3 for 3? I mean, do you still think of Mike Mottau as a New Jersey Devil, like the two of us do?
100%. I think of him as, I don't want to say like a quintessential Devil, because he wasn't, but he was. There was that time during the, I guess post lockout, but pre, between the lockout and when the Devils beat the Rangers in the Eastern Conference Final, like one of their bread and butters as like an organization, and Lou, I guess too, was just like they'd get a guy, and Andy Green is a perfect example, or Brian Rafalski, like these undrafted kind of college guys who then would putz around in their AHL system for a while, and then they would step into the lineup after being in their system for a few years, and it would just like work out, or he would like buy low on someone, and I just felt like Mottau was that, even though he was drafted by like you said, drafted by the Rangers and then did a little bit of a tour, but he showed up on MSG on like the Devils broadcast, and I feel like they would always be like pumping his tires, be like, he's not the type of player that you don't notice in the score sheet, if that's how you know that Mike Mottau's like having a good game. And
I guess.
But I just that like Devils blue line of like Green and Mottau and Salvador, they were just like, I mean, I don't know how any of them scored. I've got enough. It's it's funny. It's like I think about Andy Green, and the one play that comes to mind for me is like the little breakout pass he made. It was like a 6-foot breakout pass in Game 6 against the Lightning that ended up leading to Jordan Eberle's goal. And it was just like the simplest little play, happens 100 times a game, but that one just ended up leading to a huge goal. And that's the kind of player that I think of Andy Green is like really, really good at doing that stuff. Very safe, compact player. Kind of, when he went on the ice, you didn't expect anything to really happen in either direction. With Mottau, I think that's how he was sold to us when he signed. Like, oh, he's going to be a stabilizer. He's a defensive defenseman. You don't worry about the lack of offensive upside, because it's all about his defense. And I was like, okay, that sounds good. I guess it sounds very similar. So that's similar to what you're telling me about Mark Eaton. And then it was like the exact opposite. And what you know, one of his goals, I was looking this up. He did score 2 goals in the 29-10 season. So the season before he signed with the Islanders.
Yeah.
And he scored those 2 goals, the only 2 goals of the season, against the New York Islanders.
Oh my God. Of course he did.
Mike Mottau assisted on goals by Brian Ralston for the Devils that season, 2 of them. He also assisted on a goal for Jay Pandolfo. He assisted on a goal. He assisted on a goal for Dean McAmmond.
Wow.
And he assisted on a goal for Travis Zajac. So he assisted on 2 goals for Dean McAmmond, actually. So yeah, a lot of weird Islanders.
Dean McAmmond was a Devil. I'm learning this now. I totally forgot about that. Unbelievable. He's going to get an episode of this show as well.
And now, a word from our sponsors. First is always VintageIceHockey.com, where you can get t-shirts, hoodies, jerseys, and more featuring over 100 classic hockey logos. Vintage Ice Hockey now carries a full line of Islanders Anxiety merch featuring our blue and orange brain logo, as well as our Al Arbor and the Island shirts. And as always, our portion of the sales go directly to the Center for Dementia Research. That is VintageIceHockey.com. Try wines from the Pinot Project. They offer a Rosé, a Pinot Grigio, and a Pinot Noir that was named a Top 100 Best Buy by Wine Enthusiast magazine. All are delicious, priced at less than $15 a bottle, and available at local wine shops and at UBS Arena. Learn more at thepinotproject.com. Please drink responsibly.
You know, I don't think we're alone in thinking of this guy as a Devil. And, you know, I think quintessential, like you said, might be a little too much, but almost like textbook Devil.
Right,
like
textbook.
There's a difference of, like, you know, a quintessential New Jersey Devil is Ken Danico, you know, who won 3 cups with the Devils. Right. Like, this guy wasn't anywhere in that neighborhood, but he fit that mold, especially with Lou running things. And, like, you know, Mottau, it's funny. He's one of these guys that, like, the Devils had, so he was 24 when he played with Calgary. That was in 2002, 2003. He then spent like 4 years in the minors.
Yeah.
And then he signed with the Devils. So, like, that's the exact kind of person the Devils would want.
Right.
A guy who's just like, he's down there. He's like the meat and potatoes guy in the AHL on the farm, and they bring him up, and he's just that meat and potatoes guy in the NHL. And like you said, he played those 3 seasons, and yeah, that was his heyday.
I got to read out a couple other people off of this 2009-10 Devils team, actually, now that we're here. We're going to count them. John Denis. Rob Davison. Andy Green. Dean McAmmond. Mike Mottau. Nick Palmieri, brother of Kyle. Jay Pandolfo, that's 7. Zach Parise, it's 8. Brian Ralston, that's 9. Ben Walter.
Oh, wow.
That's 10. Travis Zajac, that is 11. That's 11 guys who would end up playing for the Islanders eventually on this team of 37.
That's like half our list of weird Islanders. That's crazy.
Rob Davison is a 1-game player that season, and I'm assuming that's his only Devils game ever, because I don't remember him being on that team. But yeah, 11 future Islanders on this team.
That's amazing.
Wow.
So there you go. So if these Islanders look familiar, it's because you probably saw them on MSG Plus or whatever they do. But that's crazy. After 3 seasons with the Devils, and, you know, making a name for himself, and again going from a man of 24 playing for the Calgary Flames to a man of 31 and playing for the Devils, Mike Mottau signs with the New York Islanders on September 28th. Actually, rather late, September 28th. 2010, he signs with the Islanders, who are looking for some veteran. You know what? Now that I think about it, I don't have any stats to back this up. I should look this up. September 28th. I wonder if he signed after Strike got hurt.
Yeah, that's probably what it
had to have been.
because like they had to have had camp by that point. And
Oh, interesting.
Garth Snow was probably like, "Oh shit, I need another defenseman." Why he was still out there, I have no idea. But,
Dan, do you have the salary that he was? Because my memory is that we essentially got Mottau and Eaton on the pretty cheap. On the relative cheap for.
Yeah. I'm guessing it was they probably both signed the 1 year, $1 million.
Yeah.
Or something along that line.
Let's see. I have it here. He signed a 2-year, $1.6 million contract.
Total 1.6 million. So there you go. Okay.
800,000.
650.
I mean, obviously the minimum salary was lower back then, but still.
Yeah.
That's right. Because, Mike made a great point. We're talking about an era of Islander hockey where Snow is just trying to get the salary to the cap floor.
Yeah.
And this is so Mottau's second year, the 2011-2012, is the infamous year where Nino
yes.
was promoted.
That's right.
I forget if this was Art Staple who told me this, or maybe or it might have just been common knowledge, but it was something like Nino's cap hit.
Yeah.
Something like $5 million, but his salary was only like $800,000.
Yeah.
So, and Garth, and this is, of course, we're talking about an Islander team that's, trying to pinch pennies. That's somewhat clever. That's a somewhat clever way to get to the cap floor without, I'm sure Wang loved it. But of course, it just backfired in a bad way because Nino just was not ready to. No. I mean, I know I know I'm straying away from the Mike Mottau topic.
No.
It just goes hand in hand with that year.
Yeah.
Where Nino just Nino had one goal, and it was like this goal from like the blue line, just like fluky goal, and then but he was out there on the fourth line with Alfo and just not clearly what is he even doing out there? But it's as Mike said, they had to get to the cap floor, and this was one way they did that.
Yeah, no, that's common knowledge at this point that Nino was basically on the team because of his cap hit. Basically.
Gotcha.
Right. Yeah. You did say something before, Keith, that it's true that after the season before, which was literally dead on arrival because of the injuries. This one did have some there was some optimism like going into it.
True. This was the Grabner year. So that was
for the same right. Yeah, it was the year that they were kind of all supposed to come good. They started hot. As you said, 3-1, including in that stretch as a win over the Rangers. Yep. And then they just did their normal November like swoon where they would win. They'd be like 3-1 at Columbus Day weekend, and then you look up at Thanksgiving and they're like 6-21-4, and you're like, oh my god, another season out the door. But there was some promise to this team. Like they should have. This team should have been much better. I will always say that this was the year where the corner started to get turned too. Right, they had the fight night. Right, this was
fight night was 2010, 2011 actually.
2010-11. Right, yeah. So they had just right. So they had the fight night. And then they're going to this year, like you're thinking, okay, this team's going to start gelling. Another season of Molson, Parenteau, Tavares, Stright's back and healthy. Franz Nielsen looks like a real player at this point. Oposo is coming around.
This was the season of, or the era, I should say, of the Nielsen, Oposo, Bailey line.
Right.
Yeah, they were like really, really good together. Yeah.
Yeah, they all started coming to their own. But you know what the sad part about this season was like, yeah, those guys did take the step forward that you needed. Even like AMAC, like Andrew McDonald for all the flack that he took. Like he had a solid season. Travis Hamonic had a pretty solid season for them. Like the guys, the young guys and Streit all did what they were supposed to do, but the Islanders kind of got sunk by the Marty Rieseners and Steve Staioses of the world, which really sucked. Like it was like, God damn it. Like if they just had a better supporting cast for this young group of players, like the Islanders could have been better. Like they could have made something out of the season, but unfortunately, like players 1 through 10 did their jobs, and then players 10 through 36, which includes Mike Mottau and also includes luminaries like Ty Wishart, who's now in Australia playing pro hockey, Tim Wallace, and others like those. That was the issue. Is like guys beyond like the bottom part of the lineup just didn't do anything.
Yeah, Mike, and to your point, this is the 2011-2012 season is the season where Blake Como essentially got put on waivers.
Yes.
Right.
He played the first 16 games for the Islanders, 0 points. You know, I mean, and that's speaks to your point, Mike. It's like there were just guys that just were not producing.
No shows. Yeah.
And it's sort of. I remember at the time, I think even on Lighthouse, it was like, oh, why are you putting Blake Como on waiver? Well, look at his numbers.
No.
And Snow has to do something.
Yeah.
You know? And 16 games into the season was already done.
Yeah, this was the time. I mean, they all did this, and even Beauvillier, who would come around later, would do that too. Like it was Bailey, Grabner. I think Bailey and Grabner one year went like 35 games without a goal or something, if I'm remembering correctly. The two of them just went into these hellacious slumps, and that was like Mike said before. November, the Wovember was always that killed them. Like they start out pretty hot, and then all of a sudden, everybody would just stop scoring. And then what are they going to do? Like, what are the Mike Mottaus of the world? And, by this point, again, the goalies are who? Dwayne Rollison, Kevin Poulin. Like, these guys aren't going to, do much if you're not scoring any goals. And so it became a problem. But that first year with Mottau, so 2010, 2011 was Mottau's first year on the island. He plays 20 games. He racks up a whopping 3 assists. And unfortunately, has an injury issue, and we're here having a good time with Mike Mottau, but this is a serious injury in a game against the Atlanta Thrashers. So you've been around a long time when you get hurt against the Thrashers. He takes a puck in the face.
The offensive blue line, Little drops it, Bogosian shoots, blocked, painful. Boy, that came right up on Mottau. I guess that hit him right in the face. We couldn't see from our angle exactly where, but that is as bad a sight as you're going to see. The blood is dripping down from Mottau's face.
Yeah, the puck came right up and hit Mike Mottau right in the face. Nice drop pass, and Bogosian looking for the top corner. And yeah, Mike Mottau being helped out by Garrett. Let's hope it's not too serious, Howie. Hockey players are pretty tough guys, and they live with stitches, and it's all part of the game. But certainly watch this. Watch where Mike Mottau is. And this puck comes right up and hits him. Looks like just above the eye.
Well, that's the first thing when you get one from that close proximity to the shooter that you worry about is that the eye.
Yes, exactly.
And we have no way of knowing, obviously. You saw the blood that is being cleaned up right now by the crew in front of the net.
And he missed 10 games because of that. Pretty gnarly to watch. I mean, any eye injury is really bad to watch. But it turned out to not be as bad as they originally thought, which was pretty good because he would come back the next year. But while he was out with the eye injury, he got hip surgery. So his season was done. This is like, again, 20 games into the season, he's done. This is a guy, he's his first year of a 2-year contract, and it's over for him because he's got hurt. And then I guess they must have been like, dude, what's up with your hip? Or maybe he was hurt. Even he might have been hurt before that. And it was just like, well, now that I'm out, I might as well just have it done. So he was done. So his first season with the Islanders only lasted 20 games. I doubt they put him on long-term injury reserve because they probably needed that cap hit anyway. But again, he wasn't going to help the Islanders at all in 2010, 2011. He did, however, as I mentioned before, this was the referendum year. And you know what? Give Mike Mottau a lot of credit. He was healthy in the summertime. And by God, he went out there and he stumped for that referendum. And he gave a heartwarming speech to people trying to get them to say yes to the arena referendum. And it did not work at all.
I look around at the people here today, and I see a lot of those attributes from the workers who want to put a stamp on Long Island and build something that they're proud of, and to ensure the future success of the franchise, to Frank Borelli and the area business owners and his family who will benefit from a destination, to the Islander fans who have the passion and the pride through the thick and thin that, as a player, we respect and we thank everyone who supports us. And those pride and that pride and that passion will be there forever. But the time is now. The time is now to pass this referendum, to put it in the hands of the voters, and to ensure the future success of this franchise. Thank you for having me.
So thanks, Mike, but that was not going to be that was a no-go right there. So he comes back the next year, and this time he plays 29 games. So it's a total of 49 games again over the course of 2 seasons. He plays 29 games. We'll get to what happened to him at the end in a second, but this is where he has his Islanders highlight. And Mike mentioned this before. Here, November 15th, 2011, Islanders, Rangers at Nassau Coliseum.
Yeah.
Mottau lays a big hit on Sean Avery. Avery probably says something or whatever, maybe try to trip him or something. And Mottau takes an umbrage and they square off and they fight.
Pressure by Delzato on Parenteau. Teams are back at full strength on the ice and gloves are dropped. Avery and Mottau came out of the penalty boxes and they dropped the gloves right away. So they've been seething right through the intermission. All right, so far nothing.
Now the Islanders have been a team that they haven't played with a great deal of spunk. You know, as Mike Mottau said this morning, you know, he's starting to get his game back together after missing all that time. This really hasn't been part of his game. I think as one of the veterans on this team, he's trying to do something to turn this thing around for the Islanders.
Well, right back in the penalty boxes go Mottau and Avery.
Definitely go watch it. It's not great to put here because there's a lot of it's just really Sam and Joe watching the fight happen. And I gotta give him credit again. Mottau really tattoos Avery at one point and then gets him in like a headlock takedown and sort of drags him to the ice. And so that's a win. The Islanders lost the game, of course, 4-2, but that's a win for Mike Mottau in our book. And Mike, you remembered this fight. You guys both remembered this fight. I did not. But I mean, what are your memories of this particular fight? You never need an extra incentive to beat up on Sean Avery. And, you know, now that I think about it, I wonder if he was on the Devils during the infamous, when he was doing that bullshit thing in front of Brodeur.
Right.
He probably was, because that was in the playoffs, actually, now that I think about it. And he was in that playoff series. So that's probably what it goes back to. But again, you never needed any extra incentive to punch Sean Avery in the face.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And like, things just hadn't worked out for him through his first year, then into that. And you're just like, all right, at least he did that. And that's fine. And as I said at the beginning, like if you're out there punching Sean Avery in the face, you're okay in my book.
Right.
For the most part, we can almost forgive you for everything else in your Islanders portfolio. But he had a lot of making up to do, and that certainly is one way to get yourself out of the hole. And like I was watching the clip earlier too, because I was like, I gotta see if I remember this fight correctly, because I remember Mottau kind of holding his own and being kind of jacked up, be like, you know, fuck you, Avery, kind of thing. And like you said, it's Sam and Joe. And Joe, there's maybe no turncoat in NHL history outside of one who plays in Toronto now that pisses me off more than Joe Micheletti, because I used to love him, man. I used to love when he was calling Islander games and he was attached to the hit with Howie. I used to love it because he probably because he was such a huge homer, and I just didn't pick up on it. But now it became so tough when listening to Call It Rangers, and he's like, "Wow, the Islanders haven't shown much spunk here tonight," and that's his exact quote. And I'm like, "Are you got to be kidding me? Like, you're making fun of like the Islanders who have Mike Mottau and Mark Eaton playing like 20 minutes. Like, yeah, of course they're not. Brian Ralston is actively playing against the Islanders, and he is on the team on this team, and like they don't show much spunk. Like, there's just like half the team is these young kids trying to like will the Islanders back into relevancy, and the other half is Brian Ralstons of the world. But yeah, just that pissed me off again tonight. I was like, God, you know, Joe kills me, man. He just that stuff, it makes me so mad. But yeah, Mottau holds his own in that fight, and that's really, like we were saying, it's hard to really remember much else besides the the Snow Angel stuff and this fight. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was in the building for the fight.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
The building. And my memory, and because I watched the YouTube earlier today. They didn't they go to the box before the fight, and then my memory is like they went to the box because I think they got 2-minute whatever minors. My memory could be completely wrong here, but I remember, and from where I'm sitting, I have a good view of both penalty boxes, and they're just jawing at each other in the penalty boxes, and then their penalties came up. I mean, they got matching minors.
Right.
And then their penalty came up, and they both came out of the box like dropping gloves. Boom. That's my memory, is that the fight came after they already served 2 minutes for whatever, roughing or whatever.
It's possible because, again, Mottau clipped Avery at one point, and they show it in the replay. And maybe it was after they were coming out of the box. I'm not sure. It's possible.
That's my memory. Yeah. My memory is because I believe I was with a Ranger fan friend. And I took him to this game, and we were both looking at the boxes, and we both said simultaneously, like, they're going to get into a fight as soon as they come out of the box. And sure enough, that being what happened. And this is, just, brief tangent to Sean Avery. This is, Tortorella at this point was done. He was done with Avery. I mean, he really, and I think if you look at that clip, like there's hardly any Rangers doing the stick tap.
Yeah.
To Avery after the fight. There's a bunch of Islanders giving Mottau the stick tap,
right.
But there's I know Tortorella was just done with the antics because whatever, anything that the structure they was trying to put in was getting ruined by Avery just doing this this stuff that just to get under players' skins or just I mean again, my favorite Avery highlight is just when he got his face mashed in by Michael Haley. I mean, that's that should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
not the Islander Hall of Fame, the NHL Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I think by this point there was more than a few Rangers. Definitely John Tortorella amongst them. That was just enough with this guy already. But we mentioned the Snow Angel before, and actually that came a few weeks earlier. We probably should have started with that, but the fight was too good. So I found this. We have the clip. Definitely go watch it. If you're a fan and a reader of Lighthouse Hockey for a long time, you will probably remember it, but it's definitely worth watching the whole video. The one I found also has a section with yakety sax involved. So you can see Mottau doing the Snow Angel with the old Benny Hill theme song playing in the background. It's definitely worth it. This would have been October 20th, 2011 in Tampa. The Lightning won 4-1, thanks in part to this goal scored by Steven Stamkos, and Teddy Purcell, of all people, has the puck. He holds it. Mottau goes down. First of all, he goes down like kind of on his side, almost like he's trying to catch a possum, actually, and then like wrangle a possum. And then he just flows over on his back, and he does this Snow Angel thing, and Purcell just sends the puck up one side of him to Steven Stamkos, who's standing by himself in the slot for probably the easiest goal this guy has scored. Probably whatever 600 goals this guy has scored. This has to be the easiest one, and probably if you ask Steven Stamkos, he's probably like, "Oh yeah, I remember that. Who was that again? Was that Mike Mottau doing the Snow Angel there?"
There's a net out. Purcell with it. Purcell looking to center. Does! They score! Stamkos converts.
I'm holding the puck in the zone right there. But watch this move here. Run around one guy, run around the other guy, Mottau, and then just perfect.
I'm glad you guys remember the fight, because to me, the lasting memory of this guy in the ice is doing this Snow Angel. And that's
Mottau just did a remarkable job of distracting his goalie. I showed this clip to my wife, just before we logged on, and even she's like, "What the hell is that?" I'm like, exactly.
We don't know. What is he doing? We don't know. And of course, Andrew McDonald would then sort of pick this technique up and do this multiple times over the next couple of seasons. But this is, listen, I can't skate. I'm not a hockey player. I don't play defense. If I was a hockey player, I'd probably like to play defense or be like a checking center, I would think. It's hard. Steven Stamkos is really good. Obviously, still really good to this day. This game is from 13 years ago, and this guy hasn't missed a step really this whole time. Teddy Purcell wasn't a bad player either. So, like, I'm not trying to be a jerk about this, but man, this is a bad look. Like,
well, the Snow Angel is the headliner here, but if you watch this play, and it's Mark Eaton makes a perfect breakout pass from his own zone to a lightning play to Purcell. It's like he just like he makes a perfect play to get this puck to get this play started, and then he makes a bad kind of over aggressive try to make up for it move. Mottau's flailing. Al Montoya's in goal, and Ryan Malone, of course, is on the ice for the Lightning too in this goal, like because he's always on the ice when the Islanders are getting scored on. Usually, he's the one doing the scoring.
Yeah,
it sums up the season. It sums up the season.
It does. It does. It just and because like Dan especially, like Al Montoya should have worked. Like they just let themselves down this season with bullshit like this. You said it right. That play sums up the season. You have two veteran guys who should know better.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who tank that play. And I just don't think any of them could have got out of there fast enough. That kind of came to be at the trade deadline.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. From your morning podcast to your afternoon playlist, State Farm knows you personalize your entire day. And that's why State Farm helps you personalize your insurance with the State Farm Personal Price Plan. It offers coverage options that help protect what you care about most at an affordable price just for you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
Every cup of Nespresso coffee is an invitation to transform your morning routine into a ritual you can treasure each and every day. Using the Virtuo Pop, a simple touch of the button freshly brews bold aromas and a rich, velvety crema layer for delicious cafe-quality coffee at home. Whether you enjoy your coffee hot or over ice, every sip, every morning is unforgettable. Nothing tastes like Nespresso coffee. Visit Nespresso.com or our app to explore our full range of easy-to-use machines and coffees not found anywhere else.
Business taxes. We're stressing about all the time and all the money you spent on your taxes.
This is my bill?
Now Business Taxes is a TurboTax small business expert who does your taxes for you and offers year-round advice at no additional cost, so you can keep more money in your business. Now this is taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on turbotax.com/business. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service.
So good, so good, so good.
New markdowns up to 70% off are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. Fresh kicks, spring tops, new dresses. There's always a score.
I mean, the denim section is unreal.
Why do I rack? All the dresses.
I always find something amazing.
Head to your Nordstrom Rack store to find can't-miss deals on all the spring things. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Kann du Norsk?
If you've had that sound from Babbel before, I bet you do. Babbel is the science-backed language learning app that actually works. With quick 10-minute lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts, Babbel gets you on your way to speaking a new language in just a few weeks. With over 16 million subscriptions sold and a 20-day money-back guarantee, just start speaking another language with Babbel. Right now, up to 55% off your Babbel subscription at babbel.com/Spotify podcast. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify podcast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Perfect segue, because after, again, 29 games, he must have sat a few games too. Maybe he was hurt again. I'm not sure, because they had played well by a lot of games by this point. But yeah, February 27th, 2012, Mottau is traded along with Brian Rolston, the subject of our first ever episode of Weird Islanders podcast. So how about that? To the Boston Bruins for two guys named Mark Canton and Yannick Rindeau. I'm sure we talked about them at length in that episode on Brian Rolston. We have said our piece on that man a lot. Keith, you obviously weren't with us at the time, but some quick words on Brian Rolston, perhaps, and his Islanders tenure that was worse than Mike Mottau's, if you could believe.
Yeah, I mean, he's another guy because he only lasted He came in on the first season. I was a season ticket holder.
Yeah, they traded Trent Hunter for him.
Yes.
Right.
And he was perhaps the quintessential cap mule at the time as well.
Yeah. Right.
Right.
Right. Because it was one of those, his actual salary was low, but his cap hit was high.
Right.
And he's another guy where I say, no, he never scored for the Islanders, but he did. But I'm convinced that he didn't. I'm convinced the line in his stats is erroneous because I don't ever remember him scoring for the Islanders. And I'll say this. Okay, so the Islanders don't do this anymore, but before the season starts, they would, or just after the season starts, they would have a big event at the amusement park,
Adventureland.
Thank you, Adventureland, and loads of fun. I don't know if you guys ever did it, but I mean, they let the season ticket holders in first, so we everybody would be going off to this guy's name. He plays for Toronto now, but I forget his name. And I would actually go, that's when I would go seek out Donovan and Hamonic and things like. So I remember coming up to Brian Ralston's table, and most of these hockey guys, they're nice guys. They're friendly. They almost can't believe that you want their autograph. A lot of them. And
these guys.
And Brian Ralston could care less. It was almost like, yeah, I'm here because I guess I'm contractually obligated to be here. And I remember just like being really turned off by that,
Yeah.
And I was
he made no secret about it, which pissed me off. Like,
at
least like I'm sure Steve Stais is like, I'm here to do a job, and like I had no other option, and I'm gonna do my best, and hopefully they trade me at the trade deadline. Whereas like Ralston's like, no, I'm active. Like, who's the player in Major League the movie Major League that like boots balls on purpose to make him lose?
Oh, Dorn.
Roger Dorn. Yes, Roger Dorn. Like that was Brian Ralston, except without the redemption arc, like at the end of the movie. Like he just was a bad egg, and really just has become a hated figure among Islander fans who are really in the weeds. But that I do want to read some great stuff from Lighthouse at the trade deadline from Dominic, that from the Ralston Mottau trade. So apparently Matt Molson tweeted out that he was on the way with Mottau to a Wounded Warriors project, but now he's like, here's the tweet from February 27, 2012, 3:20 p.m. Well, in the car on the way to visit Wounded Warriors with Motts, but now we are swinging back to drop him off. I guess I'm going solo. And then he said, I guess in his presser when he got to the Bruins, a tweet from Hacks with Hags, Joe Haggerty. I've always said that I'd take a puck in the teeth to play for the Bruins, and now I'll get my chance. And then Dominic with a great line here. Interestingly, Mottau and Ralston each played 49 games as Islanders. As Islanders, Mottau's interrupted by facial and head injuries, and Ralston's interrupted by barely a scratch. And like, I think it's just so perfect to sum it up. But that trade deadline, if you allow me, like, it was a very interesting trade deadline for the Islanders because there were signs, like we said, like there was some budding optimism about this team, and the Islanders kind of were in this weird spot where they had Evgeny Nabokov was out in had some trade interest at the time. This was the year that they, I guess it was the year after they told his contract. He came, he enjoyed it, even though they didn't make the playoffs. And the Islanders it was kind of up in the air whether they would re-sign him for the next season or not, because would he want to stay? And he apparently, he liked it enough that he would, and they would go ahead and make the playoffs the next year. But so they kept Nabokov, and they also kept P.A. Parento.
Yeah, I was going to bring him up, yeah.
And that was a swing and a miss by Snow, because Parento's value was pretty high at the time. I think he signed a pretty big contract with Colorado, like a life-changing contract. Right. So the Islanders were never going to give him that, and everyone's like, well, the Islanders were never going to be able to afford to give him that contract. So you could have gotten a pretty good piece for Parento at the deadline, but they didn't. And but the kind of the idea of this trade deadline was, we're going to be good next year, so we want to hold on to as much of these guys as we can and try to get them under contract. And they did it with Nabokov, but they weren't able to do it with Parento. And like you said, they basically got a bag of pucks for Mottau and Ralston.
Yeah. This was, and the thing about trading Mottau, like Ralston had to go. Like he was just a guy who,
right.
He had 9 points in 49 games with the Islanders, which is basically like a cry for help. Like, you got to get me out of here. I don't want to be here. Send me someplace else. And if he's willing to take a puck in the teeth to play for the Bruins, well, there's plenty of people that would love to oblige him and hit him with everything they had to play anywhere that's not the Islanders. But, for Mottau, again, the guy tried. Like, he wasn't good and the team wasn't good and he wasn't really helping. But at least he wasn't there. He wasn't just like taking up space. He really tried. And for him, Ralston's from Michigan, I guess playing for the Bruins is pretty cool. But when you're from Quincy, Mass, as Keith told us before, playing for the Bruins means a whole other thing. And for Mottau, in going through a lot of this stuff and looking at it again, I'm like, I kind of felt happy for the guy. Like there was a press conference I found, or at least a press availability, and he had a legitimate smile on his face. And I'm going to go ahead and guess that was probably one of the few he had that season. Like it was going from a non-playoff team full of like kids and guys who don't really know what they're doing to a pretty good Bruins team in your hometown. Must have been quite a thrill. Now, he didn't play long for the Bruins. He only played the rest of that season there. So 6 games was the most he got. Again, no points. But I think that was probably pretty cool for him. And, I kind of felt good for him after that. But I did forget that he was part of that Ralston trade, which I think is kind of funny. And again,
all right. So Dan just got himself unblocked by Mike Mottau. I'm going to try to do the same. So again, I went to a lot of games that season, that 2011-2012 season, and during commercial breaks, they would obviously, for people in the building, they're showing various videos and things like that. And I distinctly remember, guys, they had some type of segment with Matt Martin, like some type of like 5 quick questions segment, something like that. That's been pre-recorded, not live. It's not like they're asking them live, but it's like something pre-recorded. And the host asked Matt Martin, who is the funniest Islander on the roster? And without hesitation, he said Mike Mottau. He said Mike Mottau is really. He's like that guy is hysterical. Now
that's funny.
Let's assume he's being sincere.
Right.
And not talking about his play, but actually talking about his personality.
Right.
To me, it came across as sincere and just sort of like Mike Mottau. Because I actually did not, unlike Matt Donovan, who I had the pleasure of meeting, a few times. I really never met Mike Mottau, to be honest. Even at these, Adventureland events, it was sort of. He would be sitting with Mark Eaton. Their line would be very short, but that's okay. I had to go run and get Kyle Oposo's autograph.
That's really funny. But yeah, so that would be it for Mottau. That trade deadline deal would send him away. He would play 6 games for the Bruins again. He would sign with the Leafs, but again, he would play mostly for the Marlies in the AHL. He would make his final 8 NHL appearances with the Florida Panthers. That I do remember. Weirdly, I remember him signing with the Panthers, which was really, really odd. But again, this was the Panthers of this was the 2013-14 Panthers. They didn't make the playoffs that year, and I think he just kind of went off into the sunset. I don't think he played he played mostly in San Antonio as well that year. So that was it. So his NHL career came to an end. With a grand total of 321 games played, 7 goals, 51 assists, 58 points with the Rangers, Flames, Bruins, Panthers, Devils, and Islanders. Again, most of those 321 games, of the 321 games, 235 of them came with the Devils. But 49 games played, 0 goals, 5 assists. And if you can remember any of them, you're a better fan than we are with the Islanders in two injury-plagued seasons, of course. And in 19 career playoff games, 0 goals and 2 assists. But they were all with the Bruins and Devils. So yeah, that was about it. I guess he did play some playoff games with the Bruins that year. How many? Let's see. 2 games he played with the Bruins in the 11-12 playoffs. But that is not the end of our Mike Mottau story, because we finally get to the point where Keith Dallas, you can tell us why on earth
you have a Mike Mottau jersey in your closet. How did this come to be?
I think I'm in the Lighthouse Hall of Fame for this, right?
If you aren't, you should be.
Is that what Tom told me? So let's go back to opening night of the 2011-2012 season. It's the game one's obviously at the Coliseum. They're playing the Panthers.
Oh wow!
And there's it's early October. The weather's nice, and there's all sorts of stuff going on outside the Coliseum. And Dan, your favorite comic book historian, is getting a bit drunk. He's getting, he's got quite a few in him. So by the time he actually gets into the building with his 11-year-old daughter, by the way, there's a kiosk of among other things, like hockey sticks that are actually, have been used by players, and some practice used jerseys, which are really cool, because it's the color scheme is, defensemen wear blue, forwards wear orange, and I think the goalies wear white, or something like that. And they were cheap. There was they cost $75.
Not bad.
And I had a choice between Mike Mottau and Radek Martinek. And my daughter, my 11, this is telling. My 11-year-old daughter pointed to the Martinek one because what she remembers is from the previous year, Martinek had scored, I think, an overtime goal against the Maple Leafs in the Coliseum. So she remembers that. And she's like, get the now Martinek, though, by this point he had signed with Columbus.
Oh, okay.
So I said, well, no, he's no longer an Islander. So I'm going to get the Mike Mottau jersey. And so you got to sort of visualize an 11-year-old saying, Dad, I don't know if that's such a good idea. And I'm like, no, this is going to be a great season. I might as well, this is a pretty affordable jersey. And so I remember I forget, I had something on, so I didn't buy it and grab it. I remember buying it and then telling the guy, like, okay, I'll pick it up at the end of the game.
Right.
But again, even my 11-year-old daughter is just like, I don't think, it wasn't even like, oh, mom's going to be pissed. It was just sort of like, you're going to be pissed.
Yeah.
You're going to be.
She knows you're going to regret this. Yeah.
Right.
That's really
so, so the game ends. If you look at Islanders got shut out. I mean, we should have seen it right there. It was a 2-0 loss. Lifeless, nothing's going right. I mean, it was that type of game. So I'm so disappointed. I had even forgotten to pick up the jersey.
Oh my God.
So I just left the arena. And we're driving home, and my daughter goes, Dad, you forgot your jersey. I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I said, okay, oh, this actually might be a blessing, because now I can ask for my money back. I said I got to think of a way. So of course, go to the next game. I think they were playing Minnesota. Go up to the kiosk, and it's almost like the guy was waiting for me. It's almost like he had the jersey in the bag.
Right.
And he's like, oh, there you are. Here you go. I was like, oh, damn it. It's just like, I couldn't even muster the energy to try to ask for my money back. I was just like, oh yeah, thanks.
No, they already spent it on on like a new can of paint or something.
And I guys, I honestly can't even remember ever wearing that jersey.
Right. So it's a practice jersey?
It is a practice. It is a practice used jersey.
Right.
So I have Mike Mottau's DNA in my house. This jersey. I mean, maybe sometime in the future that might be useful. I don't know.
That's amazing. So this would have been, so you said 2010, 2011. Your daughter was 11 years old. That makes her about 21 or 22. Yeah.
2011 and 12. Yeah. So it was yeah, right. She was born in 2000. So she was 11 years old.
Yeah. Okay. So she's about 24 now. What is her remembrance of this story? Did she's like?
So I called her to remind her, because I'm like, okay, do you remember I had a choice of Mottau and Martinek? And she's like, yeah, I told you to take Martinek. And I'm like, was there any other? Like, because if there was like a Molson one or a Grabner one or even a Nino one, I would have grabbed that. But she's like, no, there was. She goes, she's like, I can't remember a third selection. I think it was down to those two, and I told you Martinek, and I'm
That's
like,
so funny.
Yep, that's why you're smarter than me. Because I mean, how was I supposed to know Martinek was going to come back?
Right.
And
the Mottau would kind of get hurt and then get hurt again and then get Hey, listen, we have all made regrettable Islanders purchases in our lives, so nobody's throwing any stones here for sure. But that is really, but none of us have Mike Mottau's DNA in their closet.
Right. Like I said, and I think I told everybody on Lighthouse Hockey because I think it was some recap. There was somebody like in the tunnel, like somebody in the doing the high five, like the high five tunnel,
right?
And there were a few people wearing Mottau jerseys, and somebody wrote, "Okay, those have to be Mike Mottau's relative because who would be wearing a Mike Mottau jersey unless if you were not." A relative of Mike Mottau. And I went, all right, confession time. And then my post just lit up like a Christmas tree, with and sort of just became this, favorite story of Lighthouse Hockey, which, okay, you know what? I'll wear that badge of dishonor,
No. That's fantastic. I mean, people like it's not so much dishonor, it's that people will appreciate it because of the story and everything. Yeah. So that's amazing though. But that's really, I mean, Mike owns Franz Nielsen's pants. So it's, again, you're not the only person with DNA of an Islander in his closet either.
That's very true. They're right over there. I gotta wear those to a game once.
Yeah. I gotta make sure I will take a picture and send it to you guys.
There you go. Yeah, please.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah. I mean, that's a beautiful, beautiful.
Not that anyone. I mean, who in their right mind would make up this story?
Exactly. Yeah, you're not going to do that. But
please.
That's really funny. One last note about Mike Mottau before we wrap this up. You talk about Mottau and his family. He does have a wife and lovely kids, and you could see them in, again, the Boston College number retirement ceremony, or you could see them in what is a first for Weird Islanders, the podcast. In my research, I came across a local TV commercial in which the Mottau family asks people to come on down to Rodman Ford. You get the Rodman hat trick.
Hi, I'm Mike Mottau, hockey dad and coach. My family and I are on the road a lot during the hockey season. When we travel to the rinks, we ride with Rodman Ford. You can score too when you shop Rodman Ford with the Rodman hat trick. On great service, great selection, and great price. Come join our circle of friends at Rodman Ford and tell them Mott sent you.
Tell him Mott sent you. So it's a classic commercial. His kids are there. His wife is there. And, you don't get this stuff that often. And I thought it was really funny. And again, of all the people to do this, Mike Mottau doing this, it was really, really funny. It reminded me of, there's a Boy Scouts of America commercial with Rolly Melanson. I think Kelly Rudy was in some commercial. And Mike Boss used to do commercials in French for like Kentucky Fried Chicken and car commercials and stuff. Wow. So this, to add Mike Mottau to that list was kind of surprising. Keith, this has been great. Thank you so much again for coming on. I love getting you on.
The invitation, guys. Really, really do.
This has been so much fun. So you are not only my favorite comic book historian, obviously, but you're one of my favorite comic book writers, and you have Riptide Sanitarium. I know number 2 has already been funded. Can't wait to get my copy. Yes. I have copy number 1 downstairs, signed by you. Is there going to be an issue 3 coming up?
I need to. Yeah, I'm writing the script.
Great.
So yeah, there is a 3rd issue that you can look forward to. Yeah.
Cool.
And Dan, I really appreciate the support. I really,
always. Always. And I will put a link in there if I can. I don't know when this is going to come out, but if I can, or I'll just share it myself. But if you're into Stranger Things and Ghostbusters, which of course Keith has written, you'll love Riptide Sanitarium. It's, kids and getting involved in all kinds of supernatural shenanigans in their hometown and stuff. And it's very vintage and it's great stuff. So definitely check it out. And that's great. I hope you've had a great time here, Keith.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. I had a long week and it culminated in this fun. This was the fun I needed.
Yeah.
Down memory lane with Mike Mottau greatness.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That's the way we always look at it too. Awesome. Reminder that we are on Patreon at patreon.com/IslandersAnxiety. Get ad-free episodes, bonus podcasts, written posts, and a whole lot more, or sign up for free and get our weekly release calendar and announcements. So that's the best place to find that stuff. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible.com, iHeartRadio, YouTube Music, and wherever you get your podcasts. Leave us a review, of course, where you can. Our theme song is Knuckles by Bjorn Falk. Listen to more of Bjorn's music at Bandcamp and on Spotify. Read Lighthouse Hockey every single day, where you get cool stories like Keith's. For your most up-to-date Islanders news and discussion, Islanders Anxiety podcasts are part of the Fans First Sports Network. Learn more at fansfirstsports.com, shop vintageicehockey.com, try wines from the Pinot Project. Michael Leboff, where can everybody find you on Twitter?
The Big Lebowski with 2 E's.
Follow Mike at the Big Lebowski. Any final thoughts on Mike Mottau, legendary Islanders defenseman for probably most of the wrong reasons?
Yeah, I think there's like some freeze frames as a fan. Like you just kind of remember you have like certain images in your head. For one, like I could think of off the top is Anthony Beauvillier on his knees, like right after he scored that goal. There's some Robin Leonard kind of doing like the yes. Then about a decade, if you go about a decade ago, there's a lot of freeze frames of players doing bad stuff. And the Mike Mottau Snow Angel is certainly one of them, where you close your eyes and you can picture it and you can be taken back to the some pretty dark times of the Islanders.
The Brent Johnson punching Rick DiPietro in the face is another one of those as well, for sure.
Right. Yep. Yeah. It was it's fun to laugh at now, but during the time watching Mike Mottau flail around on the ice would have sent me over the edge, and I would have just been really pissed off for the next couple of days. And but now we can laugh about it. And but look, Weird Islanders are in their own way all unforgettable, and Mike Mottau somehow against all odds has become unforgettable for New York Islander fans.
Well said. Perfect. You always nail this. Definitely unforgettable. The most forgettable, unforgettable defenseman we could possibly remember is Mike Mottau. Thanks so much for listening. We'll be back in a couple weeks with a new episode of Weird Islanders. Until then, keep the Islanders weird. We will talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.